Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? I'm Bryn, I'm the Game Survivor, and welcome back to MountainFactions, the faction-based Dwarf Fortress Let's Play. Now, it's been quite some time since I brought out the first episode of this Let's Play, and there's a variety of reasons for that I'll talk about at the end of the video, but for now, I'm just looking forward to getting back behind the keyboard and bringing you guys some more Dwarf Fortress. It's been far too long since I've played any of this game, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to do a bit of an overview of the last episode, so you guys are all up to date. Then we're going to jump straight into the action. Hope you guys enjoy. Now, in the previous episode, a group of dwarves made up of 4 separate factions set out to form a colony. The 4 factions were House Ang, which are the soldiers, House Inol, the craftsmen, House Arul, the farmers, and they were all led by House Rushrul, the noble house. Unfortunately, it all went horribly wrong, and this group of 7 dwarves was stranded in a hostile tundra. Shortly after building shelter and settling in for a little while, conflict broke out, and House Rushrul was confined to house arrest after kidnapping a member of another house. As it stands, that situation still hasn't been resolved, despite the fact that the kidnapped member of the other house has been returned. Now, despite the fact that House Rushrul is still under house arrest, the rest of the fortress is actually travelling along really quite nicely. We've got some good food reserves, we've got some good security, our army's training up nicely. We've got nothing to particularly worry about except for the looming prospect of a potential civil war between more than one faction. But in all honesty, how likely is that really? Well, with House Rushrul under house arrest, the 2 members of the house can't really do anything at all except yell and scream and bang on the doors to be let out. So really, security is pretty good. House Ang and House Inol, who are the sort of masterminds behind putting House Rushrul under house arrest, are pretty happy with the situation. They've actually decided to allow House Rushrul to bring food and drink into their house to allow them to, not starve to death, because that would be probably a bit of a bad move because the fortress is still very much in its infancy. Now that House Rushrul are well and truly out of the equation, House Ang are free to do pretty much whatever they want. So they've decided to set up a more aggressive training routine. They're training around the clock to make sure that their soldiers are in peak physical form to defend the fortress against any attackers. Now, House Inol and House Arul, they're fine with this because, any extra protection that House Ang can give them is a benefit in their eyes. Now, this pattern of peace and prosperity unfortunately doesn't continue for long because House Rushrul like to interfere and get their own way, and after lots and lots of protest, many weeks, it's decided that House Rushrul should have some more concessions granted to them. Now, this is mostly because in this civilization, House Rushrul garner a lot of respect from other dwarves. Basically, House Rushrul will be allowed to carry out their duties of administering and leading the fortress from house arrest. They'll still be in house arrest, but they'll be allowed to do their jobs and tell everyone else what to do. Now, incidentally, a lot of the support to grant these concessions to House Rushrul came from House Arul, the farming house. When it came to a vote, because House Arul have the most members in the fortress, they pretty much overruled any naysayers in House Inol and House Ang. And there were quite a few. A lot of House Ang and House Inol are still not very trusting of House Rushrul. Now, right off the bat, it seems that the doubts of the other houses are pretty misplaced. The administrators of House Rushrul get to work immediately building new storage facilities, new workshops, creating new beds for additional migrants. The walls outside the fortress are getting very close to completion, and some more farming plots are added. So all in all, the fortress is in a way better position for allowing the nobles to do what they do best. Now, this short second ceasefire, if you will, isn't to last either, because a massive administrative oversight by one of the administrators from House Rushrul leads to no food actually being produced in the fortress for around 2 months. The farmers from House Arul, due to no salaries being paid, stop working on the farms, the butchers stop working, all the breweries shut down. All of that business is stopped for around 2 months because of an administrative error. There is some very good news though. The walls of the fortress are finally finished, and House Ang start manning them with their soldiers and keep a watchful eye out to make sure that there's no attackers approaching. After a few more months of the fortress just ticking along nicely, another migration wave arrives. Now, this one is absolutely enormous. About 20 new dwarves arrive at the fortress ready to settle into their new homes. Now, little does House Rushrul know, but most of these are from House Inol and House Ang. Tons of new members from House Ang arrive at the fortress. Now, House Rushrul aren't aware of this because House Inol, House Arul, and House Ang have elected not to tell them. They think that they would not take kindly to the bad news and it'd make them complain a whole lot more. There is some consolation, though. Some new members from House Rushrul have arrived. 3, to be precise, 3 new members, 3 new nobles have arrived at the fortress. Now, to welcome the new members of their community, the houses decide to throw a big party in the main dining hall to celebrate. Now, House Ang are very much enjoying their position at the top of the pecking order in the fortress, and they decide that they don't want 3 new meddling nobles to upset that. So they slip some drugs into the drinks of the nobles from House Rushrul, and when they're fast asleep under the effects of these drugs, they drag them into House Rushrul's chambers and lock them in there. Now, House Ang, the soldier house, are also digging out some rooms in House Rushrul's chambers that look very suspiciously like jail cells. House Inol, House Arrel believe this is totally out of line. They confront House Ang and say, look guys, we know that we've been pushed around by these guys, but this is really unacceptable. We need to have a bit more respect for our leaders. But House Ang are saying, no, we're putting our collective foot down. We're sick of being pushed around by these guys. We're taking some serious action against them. House Inol especially very, very annoyed by this response from House Ang. Now, House Ang unsurprisingly decides to finish up these cells and throw in House Rushrul anyway. This further escalates tensions between the 4 houses, with all 4 houses absolutely furious at House Ang and ready to do absolutely anything to ensure that their power in the fortress is curbed. Now, this is very, very far removed from the resolution to the hostage crisis that we were hoping for at the end of last episode. This is very much an escalation of tensions between the 4 houses, but hopefully they can be resolved in the next episode. Thanks for watching, guys. Unfortunately, that's all I've got time for today. There'll be a new episode out very shortly. I am going to be continuing with this Let's Play. I'm hoping very much that I'll be able to do 1 episode of these per week, if not even more, maybe 2 a week. I did promise I'd explain why I haven't been putting up episodes of this series. I'll explain it very briefly. Essentially, I've just, since this channel is so new, I've just been sort of dipping my toes in the water, getting to know what I enjoy playing, getting to know what you guys enjoy watching. And you've very much spoken. A lot of people have watched the first episode of MountainFactions, so I decided, you know what, it's probably productive to continue this series, and you guys seem to be enjoying it. So I very much hope that I'm able to continue this into the future. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode of MountainFactions. If you did, don't forget to leave a like down below, and if you're new to the series, as always, don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date. But thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you later.